My name is Sandra, your webinar host. Welcome to our wellness webinar. Today's topic is burnout, something many of us have become more familiar with on this pandemic journey. Jill Cavanagh has graciously partnered with Eastside Church of God to facilitate today's learning session. Jill is a lay minister at Eastside Church in Swift Current, Saskatchewan. She holds a bachelor's degree in education, a master's degree in education psychology, and has 25 years experience counseling youth and adults. Jill lives in Swift Current. She has 2 adult daughters and 5 grandchildren. Our desire for today's session is to acknowledge our community's hands-on frontline workers who have consistently risen to the challenge and uncertainty of this extended pandemic journey with commitment and perseverance. We see you, healthcare workers, educators, emergency responders, and support staff. It's our hope that our passion for mental and spiritual wellness will bring both learning and encouragement in today's session. Thank you for tuning in. I encourage you to share this webinar link with family, friends, and on your social media platforms.
Welcome everyone, and anyone who's interested in finding some helps for burnout. We know it's been a very tough time for many people, and we are here to suggest practical tips that may help you get out of bed and put one foot in front of the other. Tips that may help you not feel powerless in our COVID world. We do it because we care, because we too are feeling life's frustrations, and because you may need something or someone in your corner right now cheering you on. The number one reason people fail at transforming their lives is a lack of motivation, a lack of energy, a lack of strategy, and lack of support. And we are here to hopefully help you with that. First, burnout is defined as a syndrome thought of as resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. It is characterized by 3 dimensions. 1, feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion. 2, increased mental distance from one's job. Or 3, feelings of negativity or cynicism related to one's job. Part of the definition claims burnout leads to feelings of exhaustion or energy depletion. It makes sense that exhaustion leads to poor self-care. Hopefully, Sandra will address some of this with her spoon theory, and I will bring up a few more ideas. Most people are capable of doing one small step. We will give you the ideas, and you pick just one thing to experiment with. Self-care is not something you can do once in a while. Just like building muscle at the gym, playing the piano, or making bread, it takes practice. And to be good at it, you need to practice every day. You want to build a foundation, so when life is complicated, you have a reserve of energy. Even tiny small steps can lead to a better place when done every day. Sandra's going to explain a theory that may help you with energy depletion. This theory is often used with people experiencing chronic illness and in all ideas presented today. Our hope you experiment with one thing that appeals to you and see where this experiment leads you.
The Spoon Theory by Christine Miserandino. The story Christine tells is of a time she and her best friend were in a diner, just 2 college girls hanging out. Her friend asked her out of the blue what it felt like to live with lupus and be sick so often. Because of their close friendship, she assumed her friend knew all there was to know about her autoimmune illness. Her friend had witnessed some of Christine's mobility and pain issues, but this was different. She asked what it was like, not physically, but what it felt like to be Christine, to be someone with a chronic illness. Christine realized the impact this teachable moment could have. If she couldn't explain this to her best friend, how could she explain her reality to anyone else? The spoon theory was born. Christine grabbed all the spoons from theirs and from neighboring tables and offered the bouquet of spoon to her friend and said, "Here you go, you have lupus." She explained that one big difference between being sick and being healthy is the need to make intentional choices about things when many others don't have to. The reality of optimum health is a gift many people often take for granted. Typically, people start the day with an unlimited amount of possibilities and energy to do whatever they desire. Christine offered the spoons as something for her friend to actually hold and then have taken away, to show that people who live with a chronic health condition or illness experience some grief, a loss, of a life they once knew. She had her friend count the spoons and was asked why. Christine explained that when you are healthy, you expect to have a never-ending supply of spoons, with the spoons being the daily physical and mental energy required by all people in their daily lives. As someone with a chronic illness, Christine had to plan her day by knowing how many spoons she was starting with. Of course, in life, there are things that happen which require some unanticipated need for spoons. Having an idea of the spoon supply at the start of any day helped Christine best manage their use. The friend counted out 12 spoons and jokingly said she wanted more. Christine knew that this little game would work when her friend looked disappointed and they hadn't even begun the game yet. She told her friend to stay aware of how many spoons she had to use because forgetting the illness wasn't an option. The friend was asked to list her daily tasks, including the simplest ones. Christine explained that each task would cost her friend a spoon. The friend jumped right into getting ready for work as her first task of the morning. Christine cut her off and took away a spoon. She told her, "No, you don't get to just get up. You have to crack open your eyes, and then you realize you're late. You didn't sleep well the night before. You have to crawl out of bed, and then you have to make something to eat before you can do anything else, because if you don't, you can't take your medicine. And if you don't take your medicine, you might as well give up all your spoons for today and tomorrow too." Showering cost her a spoon. Getting dressed was another. Christine paused their pretend day and broke down every task to show her friend how every little detail needs to be carefully considered. She reminded her friend that the spoons, the energy Christine had, was finite. If you live with a chronic condition or have ever been recovering from an injury, a surgery, or have ever lived in a season of grief or depression, you'll understand this reality. You simply cannot hop out of bed, make and eat breakfast, shower, dress, and head immediately into your busy day. Each of those simple tasks can be tiring, let alone done all together, for anyone in the examples I've just mentioned. In Christine's example, her friend was starting to understand that despite the fact she hadn't yet left home for this pretend day, she was already down to 6 spoons. Christine explained that she needed to choose the rest of her day wisely because when those spoons are gone, they're gone for the day. She told her friend that spoons need to be valued, guarded perhaps, because their supply is limited. When they got to the end of this pretend day, Christine summarized that her friend would need to eat supper. The challenge presented was that her friend only had 1 spoon left. If she cooked, she wouldn't have enough energy to also clean up afterwards. The friend opted for a quick and easy bowl of soup. Christine told her it was only 7 p.m. on this busy day and her friend would then have the rest of the evening free. She had, however, only 1 spoon left. I suspect that despite the laundry, perhaps a file from work that needed attention, some long overdue housework, or even an invitation to meet a friend, Christine's friend likely opted for what many of us would after a spooned out day, the couch and a favorite show or mindless scrolling of social media. At that point, her friend had tears in her eyes and asked quietly, "Christine, how do you do it? Do you really do this every day?" Christine told her friend that she can't forget about the limitations her illness brings and has to always consider both her schedule and her spoon supply. She wanted her friend to feel that frustration. She wanted her friend to understand that when other, healthier people can simply go about their lives and do things a person living with limited energy has to attack and strategize as if they were off to battle. When they parted ways, Christine shared this with her friend. "Don't worry. I see this as a blessing. I've been forced to think about everything I do. Do you know how many spoons people waste every day? I don't have room for wasted time or wasted spoons, and I chose to spend this time with you." An illustration of the spoon theory I thought we could do just to show you what it looks like in a visual, a day in the life of one of our hands-on frontline workers. Could be a healthcare worker, an emergency responder, or an educator. For this example, I've chosen to use a nurse, so Jill will be our nurse. Just picture any day in 2021, in a day in the life of Jill as a nurse. And Jill, there's your energy, your spoons for the day. It's 5:45 in the morning. Your alarm goes off. You slept poorly because your mind was in overdrive. You wish that your mind had a switch. You're down a spoon and you're not even out of bed yet. You check your email as you get breakfast ready for your family. The email says your 7-year-old's child's bus has been canceled, so you scramble to find another parent who can pick your child up and get them to school on time. You pass your husband in the hallway on your way to get a shower, and he's on his way to get breakfast, and he announces that he just got a text from a coworker who has tested positive for COVID-19. It's now 6:30 a.m. You're out the door to drop your 3-year-old off at Grandma's, and you worry as you drive away, wondering now, was this a wise idea? Now that your husband's been diagnosed with COVID-19, or your husband's coworker, has been diagnosed with COVID-19. You arrive to your shift at the hospital to learn that a coworker has called in sick. Your nearly full unit is now short-staffed. Early into your shift, your husband texts saying his throat hurts and he's now off to get a PCR test. A patient is declining and needs help video calling their family. You assist and offer as much compassion as you can to him and to his family. All the while, the call buttons are ringing at the desk like mad. You finally get a long overdue meal break. You receive a text from your husband that he's now tested positive for COVID-19. Your mind is swirling with worry, wondering who else might test positive in your family, and you're trying to make a mental grocery list for the lockdown that you now will find yourselves in. You call Grandma to pick up your 7-year-old. That's going to be 2 spoons. The ER calls in with a new admission. Your unit is now completely full. And it's 8 o'clock. Fast forward. You pick up both kids from Grandma. You're so thankful for her help. Your 3-year-old is upset because Daddy didn't pick him up at the usual appointed time because he's at home now, holed up in the basement. Your 7-year-old is crying because she needs to now postpone her much-awaited birthday party. And you get home exhausted, trying to remember what you need to sanitize in a bit of a flurry while your kids watch TV. You email the school to tell them about your daughter having had the exposure and needing remote learning. And you email your friend with a grocery list because you're now in full lockdown mode. Your kids are now begging for a story for bedtime, and you tell them you just can't. Your husband FaceTimes from the basement, and you offer more apologies because now the most important people in your life have lost out because you're out of spoons. Christine's story outlined her personal experience of living with an autoimmune disease. Reality is that this spoon theory can be applied to far more people and circumstances than Christine realized when she spontaneously gathered the first bouquet of spoons that day. If you live with a visible or invisible illness, have a visible or invisible disability, if you live with a mental health disorder or are struggling through the grief of any kind of loss, if you love someone or provide care for someone who is living in any of those circumstances I mentioned, the spoon theory applies. And as we head towards year 3 of a global pandemic, I believe it's quite likely that the majority of us are struggling to find the physical and/or mental spoons some days. I've personally tried to practice the spoon theory since learning about it in 2003. Once I realized how much energy the roles and relationships in my life were using, I began to better recognize my choice and responsibility in managing my personal spoon use. And as I learned to manage my spoons, I quickly learned that many people simply don't understand what they can't physically see or personally experience. This reality has provided me with many opportunities to share the simplicity and effectiveness of the spoon theory, both with people who are living with a condition or circumstance that necessitates it, and with those who love someone who does. When we can recognize both in ourselves and in those around us, when energy is not currently or will no longer be infinite, we are much better able to offer the kindness, grace, compassion, empathy, and support that is so desperately needed. Lord knows every human wants and needs more of each of these right now. I strongly encourage you to consider how the spoon theory might apply to your life currently and in the lives of those in your circle of influence and beyond. It's up to us, the collective we, to remove the judgment and stigma that continues to surround the use of human energy. We were created as human beings, not as human doings. Continuing to glorify busy in our world or use words that deny or minimize the personal impact of someone's daily reality will merely perpetuate the stigma that compound mental health struggles and create further disconnection for the person who is already struggling. One of my pandemic takeaways has been better recognizing the value of intentional human connection. We're each created to connect and to live in community with one another. Sadly, looking around the world today, I see that connection pales in comparison to division. It's said that knowledge is power. I believe this then makes seeking to understand the reality of another person a gift to both parties. And each of these is an opportunity to show love and support to another by being intentional in connection. And love, friends, is a superpower.
Thanks, Sandra, for sharing number one of building a foundation, the spoon theory, with us. This was a brand new practice for me to see, and just the awareness of where I spend my energy spoons has been very enlightening. The spoon theory and the diagrams and the following ideas in our presentation can all be accessed by emailing the church, shauna@eastsidechurch.ca, and asking for the Burnout presentation. Shauna is the director of the care ministry at Eastside Church, which includes practical care, such as meals for people in difficult times, needed furniture, mentors. She organizes programs for those who are grieving, grief share, divorce care, helping hands for new moms, hospital visitation, single parenting, supports you may be interested in knowing more about. She's a very busy lady, keeping all systems ago here at Eastside. The second tool, after our spoon theory, is a very simple tool for building a foundation, and it's a gratitude journal. Keep track of what you're thankful for. It literally changes your brain path. Research has found that when we express gratitude, the brain releases a surge of dopamine, a neurotransmitter that plays an important role in many vital functions, including pleasure, motivation, attention. Dopamine also increases the experience and the duration of the positive emotion. It can simply be a notebook on your kitchen table, and everyone in the family can put one thing on the page they're thankful for every day. Can be first thing in the morning or last thing before bed. It leads to great conversations with your kids. When you turn gratitude into a habit, people can't upset you as easily. It's a great feeling to get some power back and not have to react to every confusing, angry, frustrating thing that happens in a day. Again, experiment for 30 days and see what you find out or how you feel. I recently took part in a 14-day gratitude challenge. Included in the email package will be the challenge questions, which dig a little deeper than just stating what you're grateful for. If you're exhausted, you may not want to start here. Just writing down one or two things a day will be a great start. But examples of the bigger questions from the challenge are: 1, phone someone who's had a great impact on your life. Thank them. 2, write a letter of thanks to someone who's passed and thank them for what they meant to you. 3, find a quiet place in your home to meditate what you are grateful for, starting at 2 minutes a day. All quiet, 2 minutes you're grateful, and progress longer each day. The third step in our 8 steps is find yourself a cheerleader, someone you can tell the truth to. If you make a plan to experiment with one of the tools you come across today, then share with your cheerleader how you're doing. A text that states, "I started a gratitude journal. I wrote 3 gratitudes today." Being accountable helps us form a habit much faster. Make a pledge to do it for 30 days and to report every day. Number 4, step 4, give yourself a purpose outside of work and outside of you. What can I do today? Or to make it even simpler, what can I do this week for someone else? It might be making one phone call to a senior, just checking in on them, making cookies for a neighbor, and I have the easiest and fastest recipe ever. 1 cup of peanut butter, 1 cup of sugar, 1 egg, mix and bake. Helping others triggers a release of oxytocin, which has the effect of boosting your mood and counteracts the effects of cortisol, the dreaded stress hormone. Interestingly, the higher your levels of oxytocin, the more you want to help others. Number 5 is one of my favorites. That can be cutting out meaningful quotes, lyrics to songs, scripture, things that say something to you, and glue them in a scrapbook. Just keep it on your desk. It can happen in 1 minute when you see something on Facebook to write it down, or when you're reading a book. When you need help to lift your day. My new favorite, true self-care is not bath salts and chocolate cake. It's making the choice to build a life you don't need to escape from. Number 6, another idea that pops up from a quote. The quote, "Feed your focus, starve your distraction," is to set an intention for each day. I try to use the same intention every day. My focus question that I try to feed myself with in a difficult situation is, who do I want to be? And my focus reply, my distraction I want to starve, is the people pushing their beliefs about COVID on me. A teenager who's bucking the rules. My furnace that just blew up. Even if you're already exhausted, you can learn not to always react, but to respond, especially when you know what you want your focus to be. I was tested on a daily level when teaching junior high, but I had one thing that helped. I started each day with my intention, which was so simple. Just one line in my mind that said, who do I want to be? And when push came to shove, it was that line that could help me keep my cool and remind me, remember, you are the adult. Remember, you are the adult. I wasn't perfect, believe me, but it worked so much of the time. Most joyful experience has been for me to teach junior high and now marry many of those kids I taught. If your workplace is beyond difficult right now, set an intention. What can you say to yourself that will keep you in a personal space where you can keep your peace and not react to things you can't control? Number 6, also included in our package, are some questions for focusing on hope. Example, question A, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being low and 10 being high, how hopeful are you right now? Question B, when you think of your circumstances, what is it that most threatens your hope? Number C, what is the smallest change you could make to affect your hope? There are more, and if you'd like to answer them or discuss some of them with me, I'd be willing to work through the questions with you. And you can contact Shauna at Eastside Church, and she will get you in contact. Number 7, anything you can do physically is beneficial. Maybe walking, it may be going to a gym or a Pilates class online. Start with something small. Walking around the block. Everything can start small. And last, but definitely not least, number 8, nourish yourself spiritually. How you choose to do that is a very personal choice. For some people, meditating once a day may be all they need to stay centered. While spending 10 to 20 minutes with your eyes closed and your brain devoid of thought may seem like a waste of time doing nothing, this state of nothingness actually allows you to stay calm and focused so you can be productive as possible. Repeating slogans, there's so many that people know. Let go and let God. Take today, one day at a time. A prayer, one nearly everyone knows. Lord, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. There are 12-step groups in the city and online, and you can find a healthy church that can lead you to a loving relationship with God. 2 Timothy 1:7 says, I have not been given a spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind. There are many opportunities for developing a faith-building spiritual practice. I'd like to close with a poem. I know who I want to be, but sometimes I too can get very discouraged. If I don't keep a good mental health practice, I can run into despair quickly. This poem gives me hope, and I often look for things that give hope. Sometimes, when we read the words of those who've been more than conquerors, we feel almost despondent. I feel I'll never be like that. But they won through step by step, by little bits of wills, little denials of self, little tiny inward victories, by faithfulness in very little everyday things. They became what they are. No one sees these little hidden steps. They only see the accomplishment, but even so, those small steps were taken. There's no sudden triumphant, no spiritual maturity. That is the work of every moment. Written by Amy Carmichael. Again, please feel free to contact the church, shauna@eastside.ca, for anything you might like to look at again in the Burnout package, and it can be emailed to you. May you feel encouraged to know others care, and we hope our efforts will cheerlead you. May you now have resources to protect your energy, give you a strategy, feel supported, and motivate you. May God bless you as you seek to take care of yourself.
If today's session has left you needing further information or support, or if you'd like to receive the PDF of the resources shared in today's session, please reach out via email to shauna@eastsidechurch.ca. Shauna will assist you in getting connected and can forward you these resources. This earthly walk can be really challenging sometimes. None of us should ever walk alone or suffer in silence. Ram Dass says it so well. We are all just walking each other home. God bless.